Hey there, it's another beautiful day. Let's watch some stuff.
FBI and the U.S. Postal Service investigating a series of suspicious mailings sent to election officials in a handful of states. The Bureau says some of the letters contain unknown substances. The agency is working to determine how many letters were sent and who is responsible for sending them. They're urging the public to exercise care in handling mail, especially from unrecognized senders.
It certainly is an election year. All kinds of crazies come out of the woodworks and start doing weird stuff.
They found the entrance to Atlantis. Take a look at this. This is the gates to Atlantis, the underground world. And this is like where the mer people live and like the gods and stuff. This is Atlantis. And
if you buy that, I've got a bridge I'd like to sell ya.
So, the NYPD commissioner resigned today, and the feds are involved. So this is Edward Caban, and he actually made history as the NYPD's first Latino commissioner. But just a few days ago, our sources tell us that the FBI seized Edward Caban's phones and that they are investigating a nightclub security business run by his twin brother, James Caban. Here's James Caban. He's a former NYPD officer with a checkered past. The NYPD fired him in 2001. Okay, so the NYPD has acknowledged that they know they're under investigation by the FBI. They say that they are cooperating with the investigation. In the meantime, after he resigned today, Edward Caban sent a message to his officers saying that he was stepping down because he didn't want the investigation to distract from the important work that the men and the women of the NYPD do. Now, this part's important. We still don't know what the full scope of the investigation is, but this is a huge political headache for Mayor Eric Adams. You have the FBI looking into the NYPD. The NYPD is the largest police force in the country, one of the largest in the world, and they're supposed to work with the FBI every day, hand in hand, to protect New Yorkers. All right, here's what the mayor had to say.
Concluded that this is the best decision at this time. I respect his decision, and I wish him well. Okay,
but wait, there's more. There are 3 more federal investigations involving City Hall, the mayor, and top administration officials in the Eric Adams administration. In fact, the mayor himself had his electronics seized by the FBI less than a year ago. So far, the feds won't comment, but clouds of controversy are definitely gathering over City Hall.
There certainly is a lot of hubbub surrounding New York City officials right now. It is getting hot out there. It sounds like also somebody's trying to clean house a bit during this election year. But if the FBI is involved, you know there's something fishy going on. Speaking of something fishy going on, while I was trying to research for this was the only clip I could find because everything else was about Diddy. Makes me feel like somebody's trying to hide something with something maybe a little higher profile. Hey, thanks so much for stopping by today. If there's a topic you'd like me to cover, please let me know down in the comments below. Hell, if there's anything you've got to say, let me know in the comments below because I respond to everybody. If you're having a good time, hit that like button for me and consider subscribing. Then come back tomorrow because I'm making a new episode every day. Now, I found out some stuff about Tiffany Henyard. If you don't know who she is, oh my goodness. Let's watch some stuff about that.
Turns out she wasn't just treating herself. She was spreading the love to her family too. And by love, I mean a whole lot of taxpayer cash. We're talking about a cool $561,000 spent on repaving her mother's driveway. You heard that right? Over $500,000 for one driveway. Our Dolton diva didn't stop at family renovations. Nah, she decided the town's police force would make a great personal security detail. Because who needs cops patrolling the streets when you've got a mayor to chauffeur around town? While the good people of Dolton are wondering where all the cops went, Henyard's got them running errands like they're her personal task rabbit. One former police chief spilled the tea.
We needed those officers to be on the street fighting crime. And instead we have several officers that are riding around protecting them there.
While Henyard's living like she's got her own secret service, the rest of Dolton's left wondering if there's anyone left to answer a 911 call. But Tiffany wasn't about to let a little thing like rules stop her party. Even after getting her plastic privileges revoked, she kept the good times rolling. It's like she thought being mayor meant being queen of her own little kingdom.
She took the police off the streets to act as her personal bodyguard because she was being investigated for stealing millions of dollars from the city. Oh, it gets better.
Despite being cut off by the Illinois State Comptroller for reckless spending, Henyard still threw a massive party for the suburban town, using $50,000 to pay for just an hour's worth of performances. Kiki Wyatt and Jay Holiday each walked away with a cool $30,000 and $20,000 respectively for just 30-minute sets. If that wasn't wild enough, she spent an additional $36,000 on sound systems, staff, equipment, comedians, and even $6,600 just on bounce houses. Yeah, bounce houses. Meanwhile, the town's residents, like Jennifer Roberts, were left fuming. She told WGN9, "That's my money. That's the people's money." Former trustee Valeria Stubbs didn't hold back either, calling the event a total flop, with only around 70 people showing up. Stubbs didn't mince words. She likes to use our tax dollars to promote herself. And according to another resident, Sherry Britton, Henyard isn't going to give up easily.
What an absolutely bold statement. That's my money. That's the people's money. It's like she corrected herself, right? Like, that's my money. That's the people's money. That's what it feels like. Like she kind of screwed up a little bit. Oh, that's almost $100,000 of the people's money for this party.
We were about $6 million in deficit.
But this morning, despite the vote, Lacey still reported to work after Norwood says the deputy chief claims the board had no authority to place him on leave.
That is not true. So we did a vote on it, and our vote is actually valid at the moment. So we were quite surprised when he showed up at work today. We're waiting for the advice of our attorney to figure out our necessary steps legally.
This is political retaliation.
Embattled Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard responded to that vote last night during yet another chaotic meeting amid multiple investigations, including a federal one into her spending of village funds.
They had to meet at the Park District for discussions, as Henyard's supporters allegedly locked them out of the village hall. Some trustees believe Henyard exhibits narcissistic tendencies. Bold claim, right? But considering her actions, they might be onto something. Henyard seems aware her corruption is catching up to her and is showing her true colours. The trustees are not wrong in their assessment. Henyard is clearly feeling the pressure. Henyard has been engaging in shouting matches with trustees during township meetings, accusing them of launching a smear campaign against her. You'd think with all the evidence against her, she'd cool down a bit, but she's only ramping up the drama.
It just goes to show that nobody is immune from the corruption of power and the money that comes along with it. All politicians are corrupt in some way or another, and some just run wild with it.
I got a call at like 2 a.m. from the female police chief, and she called me at 2 a.m. and said, "We have a missing 5-year-old, and I understand you help with this sort of thing." I said, "So what you want me to do is tell you where to go to find the kid?" "Yes." I said, "Okay. Do you know what a compass rose is?" And she said, "Yeah." I can't remember the degrees. I said, "On the compass rose, you want to go to the last place he was seen. On the compass rose, you want to go to a certain degree, and you would take, I think it was 125 or 129 steps. I can't remember now. It's a specific number of steps. And when you get there, stop and just yell his name out, and he'll probably respond." It turns out the guy she sent to do that came back and said, "There's no reason to do that. I can tell you right now, you're not going to find a kid that way." And she said, "Why not?" And he said, "Because I went to a class where I was taught by the FBI on this. Kids under age 10 never go uphill." So she called me back, woke me up the second time. And I said, "Yeah, what now?" And she said, "My deputy told me that it's straight up the side of the mountain and a kid would never do that. Just go do what I told you." And I slammed the phone down and got back in bed. And she woke me up again like 15 minutes later. And she said, "We found him." And I said, "Thank you. Have a good night." I hung up. What I didn't know, and I found out later, his father told him, "If you ever get lost, go to the nearest light and wait for me." The nearest light was on the back of an empty cabin up the mountain. So that's where he went. This detective went up the mountain, stopped right behind the cabin and yelled his name, and he sat up and said, "What?"
Oh my God.
Joe McMoneagle. I hope I'm saying it right. He has so many fantastic stories. Personally, I have a difficult time believing in like psychics and remote viewing and astral projecting and stuff like that. For some reason, there's this barrier in my head that says that's probably not real. But notice it's just probably.
Funny how the CIA admitted recently that remote viewing is real and no one cares. Maybe because no one knows the true research. But in our hub, we got it right here for you. Let's dive into it. Remote viewing of natural targets. Stanford Research Institute. Presented at the Conference of Quantum Physics and Parapsychology in Switzerland in 1974. Experiments in which the subjects asked to describe remote site chosen by experimenters and unknown to the subject. The two main objectives is that you can obtain significant amounts of descriptive information about remote locations, and second, the physical distance separating the subject from the scene to be perceived does not greatly affect the accuracy of perception. Dee's description closely matched the target, so he basically was able to successfully describe it while remote viewing. We can do it to some degree. Look at the CIA research on binaural beats. You can generate binaural beats in our app too, so you can try some remote viewing. Just sync up the same frequencies that the CIA uses.
I still stand by my previous statement. Probably.
On the Medical Watch for you this afternoon, new details about the first case of bird flu not tied to known animal exposure.
Health officials believe it may be a rare one-off incident and a standalone illness. Health officials have not determined how the Missouri resident with no known exposure to bird flu contracted the virus, but there is no evidence of human-to-human transmission. This is the 14th confirmed human case in the U.S. this year. The others were farm workers connected to bird flu outbreaks on either poultry or dairy farms.
You'd think something like that would make bigger headlines, because if you think about it, this person had no contact with farm animals, yet they have bird flu. So how is it being transmitted now? We don't know. We just said, hey, they got it. They didn't get it this way. End of story. That's it.
A case of Mpox was reported at the county jail in downtown Las Vegas last week. The person who contracted Mpox is no longer in custody, we're told. There have been no other reported cases at this time, according to Metro Police. So across Clark County, there have been 7 confirmed cases of Mpox so far this year. The disease typically spreads through close personal contact. Symptoms can include fever, headache, muscle aches, chills, and a rash that looks like a pimple. Vaccinations are available through the health district.
I searched TikTok for quite a while for a recent update on this Mpox and the bird flu, and there's not a whole lot out there, not recently. And it's interesting because a month ago, it was flooded with stuff. I couldn't even find the old stuff. It's like this information is being taken down. Why?
There's a conspiracy theory surrounding some of the most powerful people on the planet, and they make up something called the World Economic Forum. And this theory is huge, involving everything from the illness to crypto. So I'll try to sum it up for you. See, the fact is that the WEF is a private club made of the richest and most powerful companies on the planet. Its members include Bill Gates, Jack Ma, Michael Dell, and a lot more names they probably don't want you to know. And these important people meet up to make decisions that affect the entire global economy. Here is why many have put them under fire. Recently, the WEF said its members will improve the state of the world through the Great Reset Initiative. So what is the Great Reset? Well, this is where the conspiracies abound, so buckle up. But some people believe a dark intention lurks behind this Great Reset. The conspiracies allege that the global elites are using illnesses as an opportunity to roll out radical policies. This includes global digital ID cards and the renunciation of private property to force their power. But this is where it gets really interesting. On top of the health policies, the WEF is supposedly using the newness of crypto to discredit it. At a recent meeting, the WEF called crypto a pyramid scheme, worth nothing, and not reliable. That is because it takes financial power out of their hands and puts it in the hands of the people. Get this, another thing all those WFE people have in common is that they are bankers. And if we all know one thing about banks, it's that they are private institutions looking to gain as much money as possible, all while buying out their competition.
She said that they use illnesses to make these radical changes. Now, a lot of stuff has changed since COVID happened. And when anything, catastrophic happens, that's when changes are made, because the public's eye is on this and focusing on how we can make that not happen anymore. So that's when these laws are peppered in and everyone's like, yeah, that's a great idea. Even though it may not be, they're just riding on the wave of that particular event, just like the illnesses. Now, I know that there's something going on with bird flu and mpox, and they have something to do with it. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's like they're waiting for it to get bigger before they're like, hey, this is a thing. Here's some implementations, right? I haven't quite worked it out yet, but I know there's something. There's gotta be something. Also, the World Economic Forum is just a group of rich folks sitting around with each other, trying to talk about how they can get more rich. On that note, I'm going to call it for today. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. Come on back tomorrow. We're going to watch some new stuff. I'll say different things, and it's going to be fantastic. Until then, have a wonderful day.